Hello, this is Beastly Eel, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about controversial death battle results. Now, what categorizes them as controversial are a lot of people were talking about it on the internet, that they didn't like it. So, we're going to be talking about those. Now, you'll have to wait till the end of the video to hear the only death battle that I disagree with, still to this day, no matter what. So you're going to have to wait and see and listen through all the other stuff that people don't like before you hear what I don't like. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the death battle between Superman versus Goku. Now, Superman versus Goku has been a thing for a long time in the sense of people have always been wanting to know who's going to beat who could beat who. And the fans were divided. Obviously, diehard Dragon Ball Z fans were thinking Goku would win, and obviously DC fans would think Superman would win. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Goku a heck of a lot better than I like Superman. But Superman beating Goku did not all that much bother me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't fun watching Goku die, for like the 18th time. But it was more the fact that it made sense to me that Superman was just so much more powerful than him, that he was able to defeat Goku because he doesn't have any limits. And Goku can only, surpass his limits. He can't not have a limit. He has a limit each time. It just gets better and better each time. But he still has a limit. And so it made sense to me, and it obviously is probably one of the main reasons why I like Goku over Superman, because Superman's just OP. And another reason why some of these are talked about again is because they were actually given a second death battle to look at their new sets of skills and their new power-ups to see if they could actually win. And this happened with Goku vs. Superman 2, but they made it very clear that it's the limit thing, and no matter how strong Goku gets, he will never be able to defeat Superman. So that one, in my opinion, wasn't as bad. I think people were just butthurt that their favorite didn't win, and unfortunately that's sometimes how it is. There wasn't, in my opinion, all that much difference in the idea that Superman would actually just defeat Goku without a problem. So then we move on to the next one. The next one is actually Mario versus Sonic. So Mario versus Sonic was a big one because they talked about their abilities more. So they really focused on the items and everything else, and they pretty much just canceled each other out. All their abilities kind of had something to defeat the other one, and in the end Sonic won because of his super speed. Then they had a second one. So they had a second death battle, and I believe, if I remember correctly, they took out the items. I believe, if I remember correctly. And I'm pretty sure I do. And that one actually Mario won. Because of Mario's abilities that he's increased during, through time. So, yeah, I get this one because they're definitely much closer in power. So, not one is necessarily significantly stronger or better than the other one. Speed-wise, obviously Sonic has it, but power-wise, Mario has it. And it comes down to who would win more. And I think it's close, don't get me wrong, and I'm not arguing that, one couldn't defeat the other. Of course they could. But I think the reason why this was such a controversy was because of the fans themselves. Because people love Sega and people love Nintendo, and they were separated. So seeing the two fight was a nostalgic thing. And seeing their favorite lose, granted they lost in each battle. So it was one of those things where it was definitely obvious that fans really were the ones that divided that one up, because they really wanted to see their favorite win. And again, like I said, it was very close, and that's probably why they also had the second death battle, to kind of show that, it's very close. The next one I want to talk about is Cloud versus Link. So Cloud versus Link was another controversial one because they were two swordsmen, and definitely Cloud had the superior power. But what got Link to win in the first death battle was the fact that he had a bigger arsenal. So his bigger arsenal gave him a wider variety of attacks to defeat Cloud with. Fans didn't like it. People thought it was kind of a cheap way to win. So they had another death battle many years later. In fact, I think it was almost 10 years later. They had another one, and they added everything to it, all of their abilities, and Cloud defeated Link. And again, it's one of those things where they were close. They were close in power, and that's always an issue when two characters are very close in power. If it's divided by fans, it's going to change how people look at it. It doesn't matter how much stronger the other one is. The fans will just get mad because their favorite lost. And that's kind of pretty much all of these, in my opinion, for the most part, is the fans were really unhappy with their character losing. But again, this one didn't bother me as much, too, because even though I am much more of a Cloud fan than I was Link, and still to this day, Cloud, it didn't hurt me when Cloud lost. I mean, it was disappointing, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those things where I'm not the one doing the math. I really am not. I'm not the one sitting there doing the calculations, so I'm not going to be the one complaining. I believe them. You know what I mean? They're taking the time to actually do this. What do they gain out of it? You know what I mean? So I can't imagine them faking it just to, cause a rise in people. But the second death battle, obviously I liked more because Cloud won, but overall that was another controversial one. And the final one for the double death battles, then we'll talk about others after. The final one for the double death battles was Samus from Nintendo versus Boba Fett from Star Wars. Now, this one was a big one because this divided fans big time, because you have the Nintendo fans versus the hardcore Star Wars fans. And Boba Fett being Boba Fett, nobody wanted him to lose, but he lost. And he lost in both death battles. So this one was the only remake that didn't... no, that's not true. This was the other remake, I should say, that didn't change the outcome even though they added some new abilities. So, and they explain it in detail, and that's where I think I misunderstand why people get mad about it, is because Boba Fett just didn't have the skill nor the technology to defeat her. So that's kind of just where I get from it. So that's why I'm kind of surprised so many people have a problem with it. But again, it's one of those things where it's the fans thing, and nobody's going to defeat Boba Fett. He's the awesome guy, and I'm not saying he isn't. He obviously is. But that doesn't mean there's not somebody out there who's stronger than him. I mean, let's be honest. There is always that chance. All right. So, I believe I have two more before I talk about my controversial one. So, another one was Kirby versus Majin Buu. Now, this one did surprise me. Do not get me wrong. This was a surprise for me. But it made sense, because I think people forget that Kirby's a cartoon. And cartoon characters are normally much stronger than they appear. Their rubber elasticity and all that kind of stuff. We forget that about these characters, and when they fight for real, if they ever do, they're much more powerful than you realize. And that's what happened with Kirby versus Majin Buu. And Kirby defeated Majin Buu by using a very powerful energy blast from the star that was inside of his body. So again, did it hurt my feelings that he lost? Of course it did, because I like Majin Buu. That being said, it made sense because Kirby was that much more powerful. He could do a lot more damage than Buu could. Even though they were very similar, they were also drastically different in power. So it's one of those things where, again, not that super big of a deal, but I understand where people are coming from. Because it's somebody who is considered to be a menace in one universe to being a goofball in another, and yet being so powerful in defeating that monster. Another death battle would be... Oh, I lost my... Oh, so apparently the 3 starters for Pokemon was one, and I'm very surprised by that one. I think it's because Charizard didn't win. Nobody thought Venusaur was going to win, even though I'm a huge Bulbasaur fan. Always chose him first. Don't care what anyone says. I always chose Bulbasaur first. Um, my favorite, still my favorite, will always be my favorite from Gen 1. I don't want to hear it. That being said, it made sense that it was either going to be Charizard or Blastoise, but I think a lot of people had a problem with Blastoise beating Charizard, even though, duh, water beats fire. But it was a battle royale, so you got to think of it that way. So it's the three battling each other, and it makes sense that um, Blastoise's defenses would be enough to get him to win. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, his defense alone was enough to keep him alive, where all the other two really didn't have as strong defenses as the other as Blastoise, which is why they were able to be defeated more times. Now, again, Blastoise did not win every single time; he just won the most amount of times. Um, Again, am I disappointed? Of course, because I'm a huge Bulbasaur fan. But in the end, oh well. But I understand where people come from. They get so fixated on one thing, and they want to make sure that they stick with it, and that one's always their favorite. It can still be your favorite, even though it lost the death battle. I promise you. My personal one is still Bulbasaur, even after that one. And he was ranked 3rd in that death battle. He's still my favorite. So this one is a controversial in my friend and specific friend of mine, and I wanted to bring it up because I wanted to know your guys' thoughts. It was Rogue versus Wonder Woman. Now, see, I didn't have a problem with this. My friend did. He thought that there was no way Wonder Woman would have lost because of her abilities as a fighter. And her one punch should have killed Rogue. And I disagreed on that. And obviously, Death Battle did as well. Because the one punch wouldn't have killed her. Rogue has been able to handle a hit. So even just one punch wouldn't have hurt her. I mean, it would have hurt her, but it wouldn't have killed her. And it would have been enough to absorb Wonder Woman's energy. Enough so to actually be able to grab her and absorb her. So that doesn't surprise me at all that she lost. I think my friend has just a bigger problem about it because he likes Wonder Woman over Rogue. But again, it's all about personal preference. Now, let's talk about the big one. The big one that I still have a problem with to this day. And it has nothing to do with which one's my favorite. It has to do with the very specific source that they take this attack from. And it is Peach versus Zelda. I know what you're thinking, but Beastly Eel, that's not that big of a death battle. I don't care. It made a problem for me. Because, yes, I of course thought Zelda was going to win. But I wouldn't have been surprised if Peach could have still won. The part that irritated me was they made it seem like the only reason why Peach won was because she has the kick powerful enough to kick a soccer ball and make 3 soccer balls and have them light on fire into a goal. So my issue with that is that was from a soccer game, a Mario soccer game. It's not a canon game. I don't understand why they used that one. That's what bothered me. That's what bothered me more than anything else was the fact that they used a move from a game that isn't really canon. It's one of the, sports Mario games. Seriously? So that's why I had a problem with it. That's why I still have a problem with it, because they used that source, and that just bothered me. And that was the source that got her to win. And that was the other thing that bothered me. It was like that was the only reason why she won when that shouldn't have been the case. You know? That's just me. So, what I want to know is, why don't you guys let me know in the comments, which death battle did you disagree with? Was there a death battle you disagreed with? Let me know in the comments. Let's discuss it. As always, if you like the content you see, please like and subscribe below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a good night.